From an abandoned Russian mafia resort to an insane former Japanese stronghold, these are Strange Abandoned Hotels Around the World, Part 2.
Number 7. Grossingers Catskill Resort in New York. Looking at these photos of abandoned rooms covered in moss, beauty salons in ruins, and walls covered in graffiti, this place looks more like Chernobyl than like a luxury resort. It's hard to believe that this property was once serving over 150,000 guests every year. Grossinger's original tale sounds like the epitome of the American dream. It was started by an Austrian couple that moved to New York in the 1900s. When they moved, they opened a bed and breakfast in the Catskills, catering primarily to Jewish families in New York who were still discriminated against by many resorts at that time. When they started, the husband and wife were running the hotel themselves, with their daughter working there as a hostess to help out. From that small, fledgling beginning, they eventually grew into a giant resort with over 35 buildings on 1,200 acres. It even had its own airstrip and post office. The guests poured in, including many celebrities. Famed boxer Rocky Marciano used to train there. However, like our previous entry, eventually airfare prices declined, the guests from New York began flying to more exotic destinations and stopped coming in, and the hotel failed to capture a younger clientele to maintain its growth. Eventually, the business dwindled, and now the once elegant Grossingers, home to over 150,000 guests a year, looks like, well, you can see from these photos.
Hey everyone, this is Mike from Down the Rabbit Hole, dedicated to finding our viewers the creepiest and most mysterious content around the world. More on that later, but for now, let's look at these abandoned hotels.
Number 6. Roy's Motel Café in Amboy, California. This entry isn't just the story of a lost resort. It's the tale of a man and his son-in-law that built an entire town and then lost it. Roy's was founded in 1938 by Roy Crowell as a gas station, located along the busy road of Highway 66 in Amboy, California. At the time it was founded, Route 66 used to be the main route from Chicago through Los Angeles, and as people began returning from the war in the late 40s and driving, their business boomed. Working with his son-in-law, Herman Buster Burris, Roy's expanded the business to include a cafe, auto repair garage, and cabins for nightly rentals for their visitors. Then, they went even further, building up the town of Amboy's infrastructure. In the 1950s at its height, Roy's was employing 70 people in a town that only had 700 people total. All this changed when in 1972, Interstate 40 opened in California and offered a much better route. The impact of this was severe, and Buster is quoted as saying, "The day that I-40 opened, Roy's business went down to zero instantly." Quickly, both the business and the town began their descent. Fewer people visited, and of those that did, Buster ended up chasing away many of them. He was known for having a strong dislike for rowdy bikers and men with long hair, and sometimes he'd even scare these people away at gunpoint. Eventually, the cafe became the only business that was still functioning in this town. It does remain operating to this day, although with continued large infrastructure issues due to the lack of people coming through. Number 5. The Wonderland Hotel in Elkmon, Tennessee. The Wonderland Hotel began when Little River Railroad realized that they needed some way to market the large tracts of land that they owned in wooded areas. Much of the land was already logged out, so in 1911, the president of the company tried a new approach. After the building, he began promoting this area as a great spot for hunting and fishing. The strategy worked. Charles Carter used this land to build the upscale and elegant Wonderland Hotel with 26 guest rooms. The once empty area grew and grew, with so many visitors coming in that the affluent ones wanted their own, more exclusive club and opened the Appalachian Club nearby. Eventually, even the exclusive Appalachian Club grew too big and started rejecting members. So these rejected members bought the original Wonderland Hotel and changed the name to Wonderland Club Hotel, turning that into a private club for themselves. Things seemed to be going great for this luxurious club, at least for a little while, until the railroad leading to the hotel was dismantled and turned into a small private road. In addition to this, many of the areas surrounding it were designated as a national park. The hotel did manage to hold on to their lease for a while, bringing in fewer and fewer visitors, until eventually it had to cease all of its operations in 1992. A few years later, part of it was lost in a fire, and by 2005, the remnants of the hotel had collapsed in on themselves.
Number 4. Igloo City, Alaska. Believe it or not, this giant alien-looking structure in Alaska actually seemed like a good idea to someone. This building was dreamed up, designed, and built almost entirely by Leon Smith. He wanted to have a giant building shaped like an igloo. He did it! Constructing a structure so large it can be seen by airplanes passing overhead. But he wasn't able to get it up to building codes and eventually ran out of funds, leaving the building to stand alongside a road in Alaska and gradually deteriorate. It was never actually open to the public and mainly remains there for urban explorers or tourists coming by to snap outdoor photos.
Number 3. Costa del Coco, Bulgaria. There were many notable failures when the housing market collapsed in 2008, but this one was by far one of the largest. It was planned to be a coastside Bulgarian resort over 62,000 square meters with 16 sections, 53 buildings that had 927 private apartments, hotels, casinos, even its very own hospital, and much more. Now, the remains from the beginning of this construction lay completely vacant and abandoned. What happened to completely destroy this grand vision? Well, the mafia happened. More specifically, the Russian mafia. The managers of the now bankrupt development company, Andrei Pampurin and Konstantin Tsiganov, were found by Bulgarian authorities to have ties to a violent Russian crime syndicate called UPS Uralmash. Upon discovery, they were considered a threat to Bulgarian security and banned from entering the country's territory for a period of over 10 years. With the main investors banned and funds coming into the development drying up, the project was abandoned, and the colossal remains of this ambitious development now lay completely vacant, waiting for someone to buy it and help see the vision to its end.
Number 2. Diplomat Hotel, Philippines. If any property on this list is truly haunted, it has to be this one with its incredibly morbid past. The 17-hectare property was originally acquired as a vacation house for nuns and friars in the Philippines. Construction began in 1913, finishing around 1915. And for a while, the building served its purpose without many issues. However, during World War II, the Japanese forces invaded and turned the building into one of the last strongholds of the Japanese army, committing barbaric acts inside the walls to priests, nuns, and Filipino refugees for years. American forces were able to liberate the building during 1945, while the Japanese forces inside took their own lives instead of surrendering. After all this, the building went through a restoration. It was acquired by Diplomat Hotels and was remodeled into a 33-bedroom hotel. It was operated by Agpao, a psychic surgeon who healed people with his mind for years until Agpao suffered a heart attack and passed away. After that, the building was looted, it caught on fire, and it was finally abandoned.
Number 1. Hotel de Salto in Bogota. Just looking at this place can easily give you the chills. A giant, classical mansion built overlooking a waterfall, eventually left abandoned, destroyed by the elements, and with rumors of hauntings. The Hotel de Salto was built in 1923 in Colombia for a wealthy architect. In 1928, an addition was built onto it, and it was opened up to wealthy city travelers visiting the Tequendama Falls area. It kept growing in popularity and eventually had ambitious plans to turn it into a giant 18-story hotel in the 50s. But that's when things began to fall apart. Construction was never started, the plans fell through, and the building gained lots of water damage from the nearby falls. Its demise from there was helped by 2 other factors. 1, the Bogota River was insanely polluted. Some sources have it listed as one of the most polluted bodies in the world. Obviously not a great draw for tourists to go visit. And 2, rumors began of hauntings from people jumping from the waterfalls. The falls had historic tales of indigenous Indians jumping to escape the Spanish conquerors and turning into eagles, flying away to their freedom. Unfortunately, these romantic myths inspired other people to jump from the waterfall as well, and these people did not turn into eagles. From a shortage of tourism and a persistence of these rumors, the hotel was closed in the 90s and left completely abandoned for over 20 years. It has partially reopened in 2013 as a museum of biodiversity and culture.
Speaking of biodiversity, in 2016, a strange, mysterious creature washed ashore in Baja California. Join me as we explore 14 mysterious creatures washed ashore on my channel, Down the Rabbit Hole. See you there.